A female doctor and your special person has a private conversation about your. My child, the hallway holds a hush that feels like velvet pulled over a lamp, soft and protective. A door breathes as it closes, and two silhouettes lean toward each other with the weight of news that can change a life. Your name is between them like a fragile candle cupped against wind. The woman in the white coat speaks first, steady as a heartbeat in a storm. She has spent years learning how to carry truth without letting it spill in the wrong shape. Tonight her voice is a bridge built with careful planks, each word placed so no one falls through. Your special person sits at the edge of a chair that suddenly seems far too small. Their fingers lace tight and then loosen, like a tide testing the shore. A single thought knocks at the door of their mind: be strong for you, be strong for the future, be strong for the truth. On the desk, the chart lies unopened, polite and patient like a guest waiting to be invited to speak. The doctor rests her palm on it as if feeling for its pulse. She knows that paper can be a blade or a bandage, depending on how gently it is lifted. Before we begin, she says, and there is mercy placed deliberately into the room. I need you to know that this is about clarity, not catastrophe. The words sink like anchors and keep the moment from drifting into panic. Your special person nods, the movement small but resolute. They are here because love is not just a sunrise, it is also a lantern that refuses to go out in tunnels. Every part of them is listening, not just their ears but their breath, bones, and quiet hope. God says the truth should arrive like rain that knows your roof, not a flood that steals your door. What comes next will not ask you to be a hero, only to be honest. Honesty is more than a virtue here. It is a map folded in a pocket warm from your hand. The doctor opens the chart and the paper's whisper is the first confession. She points to a line, then a number, then another small, stubborn fact that has been waiting to be seen. We caught something early, she says, and the word early sits in the air like a sparrow that has found a window open. Your special person closes their eyes because relief and fear live next door and sometimes share a garden fence. Their memory flashes through photographs of you laughing, crying, and eating mango slices over the sink like summer royalty. Love makes a vow in their chest and ties it with a double knot. This is manageable, the doctor continues, threading calm through the space like a ribbon. It requires attention, but attention is another word for care. She looks up and her eyes hold a calm field where new seeds can be planted. There are options on the table now, not threats. Even the word treatment feels different when it arrives with a path instead of a plank. Your special person leans closer, shoulders squared to understanding. They ask about timelines, but the doctor touches the calendar with kindness, not the cruelty of a stopwatch. We move confidently, not hurriedly, she says, and the distinction matters the way spring matters after winter. Confidence is a door that opens both ways, for your courage and for your rest. God says the body is a cathedral that knows how to repair its stained glass if you give it light. Rest will be one of your medicines, quiet will be another, and laughter will be prescribed in bright doses. You will hold a cup labeled patience and find it tastes like acceptance with a hint of cinnamon. In the pause that follows, your special person hears the clock tick, but it feels more like applause for everything you've already survived. They picture the future in clean colors, appointments that end with good news, a kitchen table covered in celebratory crumbs, your face softer with relief. The doctor exhales and the room exhales with her. They speak of second opinions not as doubt but as wisdom wearing comfortable shoes. The plan is written not in stone but in courage, which is better because it can bend without breaking. Your special person begins to see the road, and on that road, their hand closes around yours across time. God says you were never alone, not in the sleepless nights nor in the afternoons that felt like fogged glass. Every tear watered something. Every quiet morning made room for a new kindness to wake up in you. The doctor describes small changes, not as punishments but as invitations to a better language your body already understands. This is not about deprivation, she says. It is about choosing friends for your cells and allies for your breath. Your special person writes this down even though their heart has already memorized it. When fear tries to enter the conversation, the doctor nods to it politely and then points to the door. You can visit, she tells fear, but you are not allowed to decorate. The room smiles in agreement, and something heavy unclenches in the chest of the one who loves you. They ask about worst-case scenarios but the doctor answers with present-case care. She knows catastrophizing is a thief in a borrowed coat. In its place she offers image after image of next best steps, each one small enough to hold, big enough to matter. God says hope is not helium that makes you float away from reality. It is oxygen that lets you stay present while you climb. You do not need to pretend the mountain is flat. You only need shoes that fit and companions who will not leave. Together they design your days as if planning a garden. Morning light on your face becomes essential, afternoon rest is non-negotiable, evening gratitude replaces the old habit of rehearsing fear. The soil gets richer each time a gentle choice is planted. Your special person admits they are scared, and the doctor nods because truth has just opened a window. Scared and brave are siblings, she says softly. They often hold hands on the way to the clinic. The chart closes and the plan opens. They talk through logistics, rides, reminders, and the quiet heroism of keeping ordinary life moving. The doctor uses a pen like a compass, circling tomorrow, circling next week, circling the moment when progress will have a measurable smile. God says the first victory is always the decision to stay. Stay in your body with love. Stay in your days with attention. Stay in your now with a kindness that refuses to be embarrassed by tenderness. As the conversation deepens, your special person shares the promises they are crafting. They will be at every appointment they can and on the phone when they cannot, a constellation that always points you home. They will be a translator when the language gets too clinical and a comedian when the room needs to breathe. The doctor speaks of side effects not to frighten but to forearm. She says, if you feel tired, that means you are healing with devotion. She says, if you feel strong, spend it gently, the way you would spend an inheritance. Your special person confesses the secret fear of saying the wrong thing. The doctor smiles and offers the simplest script: I am here. I love you. What do you need right now? The words fit any room, any hour, any weather. God says your name is not a prognosis. Your name is a story of mornings that never learned how to quit. Your name is a doorway with weathered paint and a welcome mat that says start again. They agree on signals for hard days. A text that means bring tea, not advice. A silence that means sit with me, not fix me. A laugh shared over an ordinary joke that means today we won. The doctor stands and the room's gravity changes from heavy to held. We have time, she reminds them, like someone pointing out the path is shaded. Time to treat, time to adjust, time to triumph in small, unphotographed ways. Your special person asks for a copy of the plan, and the doctor hands it over like a map with a star. It rustles like leaves underfoot, simple and specific. In that rustling, they hear the future practicing how to be gentle. God says, I have placed a lantern at the threshold of each of your appointments. You will never arrive in darkness. Someone who loves you will remember the door code to courage. They talk about food that loves you back, about sleep as a sacred appointment, about movement that feels like a friend calling you outside. The doctor refuses the language of punishment. The body is not a guilty verdict here. It is a student who responds to encouragement. Your special person asks how to handle the well-meaning but exhausting advice of others. The doctor hands them a permission slip to decline pressure. You can say, we have a plan with our team, and we're focusing on that. The line is a soft fence that protects peace. God says, let your victories be ordinary and frequent. Celebrate clear lab results and also celebrate a day when you took a walk and felt the sun forgive everything. Celebrate the first night you forgot to worry until morning. The doctor includes the number of a nurse who solves problems with a laugh. She adds the name of a counselor who knows how to reconcile your brave face with your real feelings. She writes down a support group that meets on Tuesdays and always has extra chairs. Your special person places the papers into a folder the color of new leaves. They breathe in and the inhale sounds like a decision. A good decision has weight without being heavy. Before they stand, there is one more question, but it isn't about medicine at all. It's about joy and whether there will still be room for it. The doctor says joy is not a guest, joy is family. God says I will turn quiet routines into acts of power. The way you tie your shoes. The way you pour your water. The way you open a window in a room that needs new air. They agree to speak to you with a combination of truth and tenderness that respects both your mind and your spirit. There will be no conspiracies of silence, only covenants of care. Even the hard days will be navigated with soft voices and open hands. The doctor describes what progress looks like in more than numbers. It looks like choosing a song to dance to while cooking. It looks like remembering to celebrate on Tuesdays for no particular reason. It looks like laughter that forgets to apologize. Your special person asks how to keep from breaking in front of you. The doctor tells them people do not break, they unfold and refold. If you cry, she says, you are watering the part of you that knows how to grow. God says your future does not arrive like a verdict. It arrives like morning, a little pale at first, then confident, then luminous. You will stand in that light and be surprised by how thoroughly it belongs to you. They schedule the first follow-up and it clicks into the calendar like a key into an old, beloved lock. The receptionist smiles without pity because pity is a poor companion and compassion is a strong one. The world outside the clinic smells like rain that hasn't fallen yet. Your special person steps into the hallway with the doctor, and they share a final moment of strategic humanity. Text me if anything shifts, the doctor says, meaning not just symptoms but courage, sleep, or storms in the mind. I will, your special person answers, meaning it with all the syllables it deserves. God says there are rooms in your life that will become sanctuaries because you decide to breathe there. Your living room. The clinic's waiting area. The patch of sun that parts your curtains at 9:13 each morning. On the way home, your special person rehearses words they will bring to you like warm bread. We have a plan. You are not alone. Here is the part we're doing today. Every syllable is a railing on a staircase you can trust. They consider how to protect your rest like a priceless heirloom. Phone calls will be screened with kindness. News will be filtered through wisdom instead of panic. Your laughter will be safeguarded the way museums guard light-sensitive paintings. God says I will place humor in your path like coins, to be found exactly when bus fares feel impossible. A nurse with a dry joke about the stubbornness of machines. A stranger's dog sneezing at precisely the right time to make you snort in public. Recovery loves to tap your shoulder when you least expect it. That night, your special person writes you a letter they will read aloud in the morning. 3 pages of promises punctuated with practical plans. At the end they draw a small map with an X over the worst fear and a heart over the kitchen table. The doctor, back at her desk, writes notes that are really blessings in clinical clothing. She documents your strength without saying the word strong too loudly. She adds a line to remind herself, remember to ask about their garden next time. God says the body loves a rhythm that respects both thunder and quiet rain. Let the weeks develop a heartbeat. Appointments, rest, joy, repeat. The music is simple and sovereign. Your special person texts the friend who has always known how to deliver soup and silence. They ask for help not as a surrender but as a strategy. The friend replies with a calendar and a question: what flavor heals you best? A message from the clinic arrives with the summary plan. It reads like a travel itinerary for a compassionate journey. Your special person prints it and tapes it to the inside of a cabinet where fear used to hide. God says exit strategies matter less than entrance strategies here. Enter each day with dignity. Enter each corridor with curiosity. Enter each conversation with a bias toward gentleness. The next morning, sunlight makes a cathedral out of your kitchen. Your special person pours coffee, rehearses breathing, and prepares to place these words into your life without shattering anything. When you walk in, the day bows slightly as if to a leader. I met with Dr. Rao, they begin, giving the doctor a name and the air a stable pillar. She is brilliant and kind, and we have a plan that honors both your body and your spirit. You nod because brilliance and kindness are the two wings you were hoping medicine would wear. God says watch how courage changes the furniture of a room. Chairs become thrones without arrogance. Tables become stages for strategies. Even the fridge becomes a well of small victories. The conversation unfolds like a quilt stitched with steady hands. They tell you about the early catch, and the early becomes a lifeline braided with timing, attention, and grace. They tell you about manageable, and manageable becomes the ground beneath your feet. You ask what happens next and the answer arrives with a schedule that respects your humanity. Mornings free for walks when the air is honest. Afternoons reserved for the careful work of healing. Evenings reclaimed for the sweetness of ordinary. God says your nervous system can learn a new song. Less drumroll, more heartbeat. Less alarm, more bell calling you to the table. You will not master it in a day, and that is not a failure, it is a friendship. You hold the plan and feel how pages can be lighter than dread. Your special person squeezes your hand and their palm reads like a promise etched in warmth. The silence between you is not empty, it is full of chairs for patients to sit down. There are practicalities, rides arranged, music playlists curated, snacks designated as morale officers. You choose a notebook that will refuse to keep only medical notes and will also collect jokes and small gratitudes. You choose a sweater that promises to be lucky because sometimes luck is just comfort with a good memory. God says I will meet you in vending machine rooms and elevator lobbies, in side streets where you breathe between appointments, in bathrooms where water on your face feels like a clean paragraph. None of these places are small to me. They are chapels built exactly to your scale. You teach your calendar how to be kind. No double booking of sorrow and obligation. No standing invitations for panic. Only the gentle stacking of next right things. Your special person becomes fluent in your silences, able to tell when you need space and when you need your forehead kissed. They guard your sleep like a border, letting nothing noisy cross after a certain hour. They learn to call the nurse not just for questions about the body but for questions about the spirit of this journey. God says the world will continue to be loud with its ordinary clatter, but I will tune certain sounds for you. The kettle will whistle like applause. The washing machine will sing like rain. Your own laughter will be a door chime that announces hope has entered. Weeks pass and progress begins to show up like tidy footprints behind you. The numbers nod. The scans wave politely. The doctor smiles in a way that makes your shoulders drop an inch. Your special person surprises you with a small celebration, a blank journal titled "Victories the World Might Mississippi." You write, "Today I forgot, for 15 minutes, to be afraid." You write, "The nurse said my questions were excellent." You write, "I tasted strawberries and they tasted like a red sunrise." God says let there be witnesses, even if it is just the plant on your windowsill that seems to lean toward you each morning. Let there be confetti, even if it is just the way sunlight breaks apart on your floor. Let there be music, even if it is just the rhythm of your spoon in a cup. Some days dip low and the sky sits heavy on your rooftop. Your special person notices and calls the counselor who knows the language of storms. You sit together and name the weather, and somehow the naming hands you an umbrella. The doctor remains consistent, her steadiness a lighthouse that refuses to blink out. She never rushes your questions, and when she doesn't know, she says so with the elegance of someone who respects truth more than performance. Trust grows in that soil and blooms out of season. God says endurance is not a grimace, it is a grace that paces itself. You will not sprint this. You will walk it, and the ground will become familiar, and familiarity will become less frightening than the wild imagination of dread. Your special person plans small trips into joy that do not require passports or heroics. A movie at home where the blanket becomes a ticket. A drive with the windows down where the wind insists you are still a miracle. A day spent reorganizing books so that comfort lives at eye level. On the day a test result returns with the music you hoped for, the clinic feels like a fair without the noise. The doctor grins and taps the page, an orchestra conductor cueing the brass. "Keep going," she says, which sometimes means the best thing has already started. God says the arc bends toward restoration because 1,000 small choices lined up like faithful soldiers. You did not win because you fought the hardest. You won because you kept choosing gentle courage. Gentle courage is a river that wears down stone. You and your special person sit with the doctor for a long time after the victory is pronounced. You talk not only about maintenance but about meaning, not only about follow-ups but about follow-through. You ask what you will do with the light you now carry like a lantern. The doctor tells you something you already suspected: you will become bilingual, fluent in both suffering and joy. You will translate for others, not with advice but with presence. You will show up bearing tea and the sacred sentence, "I'm not afraid of your fear." God says, "I did not promise a life without corridors. I promised a light for every corridor and a hand for every doorknob." You were brave to walk, and you were wise to rest, and you were kind to let love help. This is how healing looks wearing your face. The door closes behind the three of you one last time, and the hallway feels like a ribbon being cut. The future opens the way a mouth opens to breathe, easy again. You step into it with the quiet swagger of someone who has rebuilt a bridge and is the first to cross. Later that evening, your special person and the doctor exchange one more message. Gratitude loops between them like a golden thread that will not fray. Professional, yes, but also personal in that noble way where human beings choose to care beyond the minimum. God says, carry on with your ordinary miracles. Wash your dishes. Water your plants. Return your library books on time and feel how returning anything on time becomes an anthem. Let health be a friend you meet for coffee, not a trophy you guard nervously. You sleep, and your dreams finally remember that they were designed for wonder. A field opens. A sky sings quietly. You wake with a softness in your bones that doesn't demand proof. The clinic remains on your map, but the visits become chapters, not the whole book. The doctor remains a character in your story whom you will always describe with gratitude. Your special person remains the author of 1,000 small rescues no one else saw. God says the verdict is life, with all its messy holiness. The sentence is joy, to be served daily with laughter as needed. The appeal is unnecessary, but the gratitude may continue indefinitely. And in a quieter room, at a later hour, the doctor and your special person recall the first night, the hush, the chart, the risk of words. They marvel at how a conversation can be a surgery that leaves no scar and yet removes a terror. They honor the sacredness of telling the truth in a way that lets someone keep breathing. When you and your special person finally sit under a tree that used to shade only other people, you understand how shade is earned by those willing to tend trees. The bark is rough and reassuring under your palm. The breeze is a nurse with infinite patience. God says, write this into the margins of your days: we chose clarity over catastrophe, presence over panic, gentleness over bravado. We kept showing up to the simple rituals that disarm fear. We allowed love to be a logistics manager and a lullaby. This is not a fairy tale, it is better because it is yours. It sweats, it sighs, it hums, it heals. It wears your clothes and sleeps in your bed and knows the path to your favorite window. Your special person and the doctor will always carry a piece of that first room with them. It will live in their instincts to speak softly but plainly. It will live in their habit of reaching for the light switch before talking about the dark. God says, "Go on, beloved. Go on with your ordinary anniversaries and your ridiculous dances in the kitchen and your victorious grocery lists. Pass your courage around like a plate of sweet things. Let others take a piece until fear is too full to eat. When the seasons turn, you will notice you have grown a weather sense that has nothing to do with rain. You can feel approaching storms, and you can also feel the sturdy architecture of your own shelter. The door locks with a click that sounds like faith. In the end, what began as a private conversation becomes a public testimony written in the quiet ink of your daily life. Not to impress, but to encourage. Not to boast, but to illuminate what is possible when mercy is chosen repeatedly. God says you are not a miracle because you avoided suffering. You are a miracle because you learned to carry it with rhythm and let it teach you a more generous language. You are a miracle because you refused to make war on your own body and chose, instead, to make peace. There will be future check-ins where the doctor's grin is a banner hung across the month. There will be future nights when your special person falls asleep early because vigilance has been replaced by trust. There will be future mornings when you wake already halfway to gratitude without having to walk there. And if fear ever returns with a trunk of old tricks, you will meet it at the door with a clipboard. "We have procedures now," you will say pleasantly. You may sit in the waiting room until hope finishes its rounds. God says, "I am proud of the way you honored the truth without letting it tyrannize you. I am proud of the way you let others in without making them carry what was not theirs to carry. I am proud of the way you let joy be simple again." The story never needed to be loud to be holy. It needed only to be faithful in small ways: water drunk, pill taken, walk walked, laughter kept on a low simmer. This is the choreography of healing performed on an ordinary stage with extraordinary grace. You will keep the folder with the plan, not as a trophy but as a friend's old letter. You will keep the mug from the clinic's gift shop because it once held tea on a day when your hands shook. You will keep the love that walked into a room with a doctor and walked out with you, intact and luminous. God says, end with gratitude and begin again tomorrow with the same. It is how gardens stay gardens and houses stay homes and bodies remember their native light. It is how you continue to write chapters that read like a steady sunrise. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. God says. Night folds over the city like a careful blanket and leaves a small square of starlight on your wall. In that square, courage practices its breathing. Your heart learns the rhythm again and chooses to keep time. Morning wakes with the clean sound of dishes and a gentle plan written on a sticky note. Appointments are circled like islands you will visit with a steady boat. Your special person pours tea and adds a whisper of honey that tastes like relief. The clinic hallway greets you like an old friend who has learned to speak softly. Shoes squeak, lights hum, and the receptionist offers a smile that has survived many storms. You step into the moment the way swimmers step into a lake they love. God says, I will make the waiting room a classroom where time teaches kindness. You notice the art on the walls and pick a favorite that looks like sunrise on water. Your special person taps your knee twice, a secret code that means you are not alone. The nurse calls your name and it lands in the air like a promise kept. Blood pressure, temperature, oxygen, all the tiny satellites that orbit your well-being line up obediently. You watch numbers become sentences that say keep going. The doctor arrives with that steady lighthouse energy again. She carries a folder and a sense of proportion, both of which are necessary instruments. Her first words are shaped like a chair you can sit in. How are you holding today? God says language is medicine when it removes sharp corners. The conversation moves like water around stones, finding the gentle path that still reaches the sea. You ask for clarity and receive it without the bitter aftertaste of alarm. Scans appear on the screen, gray poetry translated into probability and progress. The doctor points to a region that looks calmer than before, a softness where there used to be noise. Your special person exhales as if releasing a bird from their chest. They discuss timing with the humility of sailors reading weather. There is no rush to outrun the wind, there is intelligence in trimming the sails. A plan expands and contracts until it fits your actual life instead of your fears. God says wisdom is a lens that cleans the glass without scratching it. You see what needs seeing and leave the rest in the fog where it belongs. Peace occupies the empty chairs fear once stacked against the wall. You walk through side effects like a garden path lined with signs. Some say rest here, some say hydrate now, some say call us if the wind changes. Your special person reads every sign aloud until the words become familiar friends. At home, the kitchen becomes a studio for small recovery rituals. Bowls fill with fruits that taste like sunlight, pots simmer with comfort that smells like safety. You both eat the way artists paint, deliberately, with color and patience. God says your home can be an instrument that plays healing. Open the window and let air carry out what no longer serves you. Close the curtains when your spirit asks for shade. You take the prescribed walk and the neighborhood answers like a choir. Leaves applaud, sidewalks nod, a hidden bird announces that morning is still campaigning for joy. 10 minutes becomes 12 and 12 becomes a victory with sneakers. Your special person schedules a midweek celebration for no reason except that celebrating is a reason. You both pick a song and let it rearrange the furniture of your mood. Laughter returns wearing sneakers of its own. God says celebration is not denial, it is discipline. You choose to notice what is good so your mind stays strong enough to name what is hard. Balance is not a tightrope here, it is a porch swing. On a heavier day, the air feels like wet wool and your thoughts keep slipping. You text the counselor who speaks fluent storm and they answer with steady umbrellas. A session becomes a clearing where the path shows itself again. The doctor checks in between visits with a message that honors both data and dignity. She asks how your sleep has been and whether the new routine sits well with your afternoons. You answer honestly and feel the way trust grows when truth is welcomed. God says honesty is a window that opens and does not slam. You tell the room what is real and the room says thank you. In that exchange, fear loses market share. Friends bring soup like letters from a sweeter country. They leave it on the porch with notes that do not ask for replies. You warm the bowl and taste how community arrives without knocking too loudly. Your special person has become a manager of gentle logistics. They juggle calendars, recipes, playlists, and the quiet art of being present without smothering. Their love is a lighthouse that also knows how to turn off the foghorn and let you sleep. God says partnership is choreography you learn step by step. Sometimes you lead with your breath and sometimes they lead with their steadiness. The dance remains beautiful even when the music is low. The follow-up exam arrives like a bell you have already prepared to hear. You pack your small bag of comforts, lip balm, soft socks, a book that refuses to be sad. The drive is quiet and kind to your nervous system. In the room, the doctor reviews the latest results and the numbers agree with the narrative your body has been telling. Progress is not loud, but it is loyal. You collect the good news like smooth stones for your pocket. God says mark your map with these stones. When future days try to explain themselves in thunder, take out your pocketful of proof. Remember that the river keeps carving the canyon even when no one is filming. You and your special person take a photo by a tree outside the clinic. It is not for social media, it is for your kitchen wall and the private museum of courage. The tree silently signs your guest book with shade and grace. You return home and nap with the seriousness of a sacred appointment. Sleep knits stitches you cannot see but will feel when you next stand. The blanket smells like detergent and forgiveness. God says let the ordinary save you repeatedly. Clean sheets, a glass of water, a joke remembered at the right time. Small things are large medicine because they are available. On a weekend, you sort old boxes and find a letter to your younger self that never got written. You write it now with a pen that glides like a trusted boat. The words say you have always been more durable than your doubts. Your special person plans a tiny road trip to a place with a horizon, because horizons teach perspective. You sit together and let the line between earth and sky remind you that lines can be friendly. The wind edits your worry down to a manageable sentence. God says your body is reacquainting itself with delight. Stretch your arms and name that movement a blessing. Look at your hands and let them know they did a good job holding on. The next clinic visit carries a new topic, maintenance. The doctor describes it as tending a well that is now reliably clear. You nod and feel the dignity of stewardship replacing the urgency of alarm.